I'm so excited to have you here because I've actually wanted to talk to you now for a couple of weeks as this government shutdown has gone week after week. I think one of the ways that the shoe really pinches for Americans is the ripple effect of air traffic control, sick outs, slowdowns, and flight delays. And I wonder if you can just give me your take on what's happening in government now, the shutdown, the effect on air traffic and on air traffic generally. And maybe we can get to some possible solutions on down the way.
Well, I mean, I first think of all of the, the difficulty with, having an air traffic control system under the guise of the government itself, because it's a political football, plain and simple, either whatever side you're on or not. Should not be held a gun to the hostage of the flying public. I think it's absolutely criminal to do that. I think a European model like they have in the UK would be the best solution, where the government still manages the air traffic control, but the controllers themselves are privatized, and just to get the fees that you pay in your airline ticket to pay those controllers directly, so that there's no ifs, ands, or buts about budget and this and that. I think would be the practical solution.
Well, we have a lot of private-public partnerships like that in American government now, so that's not so surprising. What's happening as you see it? I mean, I see headlines. I see United Airlines, they clipped each other's wings, and I see flight delays that are averaging on an hour. I've seen Reagan National Airport shut down because of a bomb scare. And tell me how chaotic it is and what's your take on that? What's happening now?
Well, the wing clipping thing is sort of a new reality of the aircraft being the appendages of the aircraft are themselves being extended to maximize flight, and they have winglets and things like that. So it's creating an issue where pilots can't necessarily see that they have the clearances to move airplanes around, or the ground crews, and they really need to either beef up the ground crews so they spot the wings and that sort of thing, or in a lot of cases in these larger airports, the airlines themselves have their own little towers that sit above the terminal, and that is a private thing, and they should either go to a controller, an actual controller, or have some better devices to minimize that thing. I mean, a lot of it is those kind of wingtips being extended out on the aircraft. So it's a big part of it. Not all of it. Some of it is just not keeping your eyes open.
Really. Let me just ask you to follow up on that. You're saying that the airlines themselves have their own areas of aviation traffic direction going on at certain airports?
They do, especially when they control, pardon me, man. Excuse me, I'll have to have a sip here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Especially like at LAX, the Delta terminal has its own little ramp tower, and they control their own gates and their own ramp space until the actual aircraft pushes back into the taxiway or the alleyway of the airport. That's all controlled by the airlines themselves. Yep.
And you're saying that is something that you'd like to see change, or you'd like to see that integrated into the system, that the existing system that you would also like to see morph into more of a private public enterprise?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I mean, it's a difficult task for the air traffic controllers in the tower to see every little thing going on their particular ramp. But I think that the training needs to be beefed up to a federal standard with the actual employees of the air carrier, or having, I would say, contract employees that are trained a little bit higher than the airline standard. I think that would mitigate a lot of the accidents.
You mentioned Britain. Tell me how things are handled generally in Europe. Is this situation with air traffic controllers in Europe generally one that's a governmental relationship with private industry at the center of it, or how does it shake out across much of Europe?
Okay, well, when the EU became the EU basically about 20, 30 years ago, every country had its own air traffic control area or area of responsibility. That all sort of became a gigantic mess, especially planes crossing the Atlantic, going to Germany, France, UK, Poland, et cetera. So the United Kingdom, since they're the first line of the European universe, they incorporated a business called NATS, National Air Transport Safety, and it became the standard really of the air traffic control system in Europe. So once aircraft cross that first line of the European Union, they then are farmed out to Germany has a private air ATC, France does as well, and Spain also. So those three or four countries manage the entire European continent. And then beyond that, it's Russia and some other places. And it's all managed by the UN, actually.
Oh, that's fascinating. It is? Yeah. And what does that mean? It's all managed by the UN. What is the management aspect of it?
So all the air traffic control, except for the US and Russia and some large in China probably, are all regulated and the rules are made by the UN body called the IACO, or the International Air Carrier Organization. And that body relegates, say if I fly, you're going to fly to Colombia, for instance. So if you were leaving Miami and you took off on American Airlines, Delta, whatever it is, you would take off, you'd be out of the US airspace in about 20 minutes. From that point, the plane contacts the Cuban air traffic control and you fly over Cuba. And the US government isn't involved in that, but the airlines directly pay the UN body for the overflight rights to do that. And then everybody gets their check and money and so forth and so on. And your airplane is handled by Cuban air traffic controllers until it leaves their airspace.
And so you're saying then that process is repeated as you continue on down. If you were flying all the way to Buenos Aires or something, it would be repeated, the handoff.
Exactly. Yeah, it's mind-boggling. That's why I'm producing a TV show about the airlines, just people can understand these relationships, because they absolutely have no concept of it, and it happens every day.
Well, it's such a high wire act, with so many planes in the air. And so let's get back quickly in our last minute or so here to the situation in the U.S. How bad is it right now with this government shutdown?
Well, we have 13,000 air traffic controllers that haven't been paid in over almost a month now. And the call outs of being sick and all that sort of thing is starting to really pile up. And at some point, I was watching Sean Duffy say that you're going to have to pull the plug on the entire system in a couple of weeks if they can't get this resolved. So it's really a sad state of affairs that we have to rely on whichever wind, the way the wind blows.
I mean, just ridiculous. The notion that the political chess match could in any way involve the traveling public and involve those people who are earnestly working to serve the traveling public. I mean, the air traffic controllers are people, showing up to work, and if you can make them essential workers, you view them which they are, you can force them to work, then you can force the government to pay them. I've never understood this.
Neither have I. And it's, like I said, it didn't work when Europe became the EU. And it worked out, and they figured out a solution for it. And I think we can too. And it also hurts the airlines. If the airlines have to shut down, that's a massive industry. And then everybody in their world, in the United States, not going to be going home for Thanksgiving. I can tell you that right now.
No, it's hitting at a very tough time. But regardless of the time, it's really unacceptable. Patrick, love having you as a resource at times like this and beyond. Please stay in touch. And, when your show, I know you're working on this television show, when that drops, we'll support it. So please come through.
We've got Patrick Warburton as our mouthpiece now for it. So everybody's pretty excited about him being on board.
Great. Yeah. Yep. He's two Patricks on board a project. How could it miss? Patrick Weil, everyone. Thank you, Patrick. Talk soon. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.